You're listening to a Raconteur Studios podcast.
SPF, when it comes to it, I think we all agree that no matter what the weather is like, putting your SPF on every single day is one of the key practices to keep your skin looking younger for longer.
I mean, this is our mantra on the After Hours Skin Connect, but we all know the issues that comes with wearing SPF. So sometimes it can feel quite greasy on, or it can make you a bit more sweaty, the yellowing. Your makeup doesn't sit nicely at the top of it. Definitely for my skin type, it can sometimes leave you with this grey, whitish cast. It can pill when you layer it over other products. So there are a whole host, the list is endless, of all the issues that can sometimes come with an SPF.
And that's why Encapsulated SPF, it's so wonderful.
Genius.
Never heard of it? Well, we're potentially about to introduce you to your new favourite skincare ingredient.
Hello and welcome to the After Hours Skin Connect, the place where the skincare conversation never, ever stops. We're consultant dermatologists. I'm Dr. Ellie Rashid.
And I'm Dr. Emma Craythorne. And today we're talking about the best thing to happen to the skincare industry, I'm going to guess since the discovery of retinoids.
And since the formation of the After Hours Skin Connect podcast.
Obviously.
And that's Encapsulated SPF. Now, it's been around for a little while, but it hasn't quite made it into the headlines. So we thought we'd get ahead of the curve and tell you everything you need to know about this incredible form of sun protection.
And by the end of this episode, you'll know what it is, how it works, how to get your hands on it, and why, well, certainly in our opinion, it's the best form of sun cream out there.
Okay, so let's dive into the science. Emma, in really simple terms, can you tell listeners how encapsulated SPF works on the skin and how it's different to your everyday sunscreen?
Okay, so I think before we get into what an encapsulated SPF is, I probably need to explain exactly what an SPF really is. So when we think about sun protection filters, these are chemicals and they absorb the energy of the ultraviolet radiation and they convert that ultraviolet radiation to a little bit of heat. So it sits on the surface of your skin and it absorbs the energy, and instead of going through into your skin and causing damage, it just converts that energy to a little bit of heat. Now, different filters function in different ways and they function at different levels along that electromagnetic spectrum. So some filters absorb UVA better, some filters absorb UVB better. And actually what you really need to have in a sun cream that you would buy is a whole range of filters that are doing their best to absorb that ultraviolet at different levels all the way along the electromagnetic spectrum. So you want to get as broad coverage as possible. But you also want those filters to be very stable and you want them to absorb a lot of energy, because there's no point just having a filter that absorbs a little bit of energy but then tires out very quickly and then the rest of the ultraviolet gets through. You want to have a filter that's going to absorb a lot of energy, keep absorbing a lot of energy, depending wherever it is on that absorption spectrum. So really, in the perfect sun cream bottle, you would have a mixture of different filters. But as you rightly said, sometimes these filters can be a bit stingy. They can not go on in a kind of very even way. They can sometimes leave a cast on the surface of the skin. They can sometimes be a colour that might stain your nice white shirt yellow. Quite a lot of the filters have a few issues with them, and sometimes they can cause irritation to the skin surface. And this idea of encapsulation is a newer form of technology within ultraviolet kind of protection, where those filters are surrounded by little polymers. It's almost like they are protected by a little casing around them. So you've got that filter and then it's got a lovely little coat or a casing around it. And that means many things, but importantly, it means that that filter stays stronger for longer. So this idea then that you would get better protection for a longer period of time out of wearing one of these encapsulated SPFs. The other reason why they're also pretty good is that because they have these little capsules around them, the film that they create on the skin, it's actually a neater film. It doesn't have gaps in it in the same way that otherwise filters on their own might leave. So, ultraviolet can still get through the little gaps. I think about it a little bit like if you've got a snooker balls on a table and you've lined them all up, you can see the gaps when the balls are beside each other. But if you put another row of balls on top of them, then you can't see through them anymore. And it's a little bit like that. These encapsulated SPFs sit on top of each other in a much more organized way. So it means that no gaps of light are getting through. Another reason that's pretty great actually is that you can then typically use ingredients that you might not have been able to use before mixed with the filters, because sometimes some ingredients might break down or degrade the filters, so you can't necessarily use them in the same bottle. And so the very fact that these are encapsulated and are more protected means that you could use more variants of ingredients alongside them. There is the theory as well that because they then sit on the very surface of the skin, they're not absorbed into the kind of deeper layers of the skin, that some people feel a bit more confident because they're not being absorbed in the same way. But I just want to stress at that point, we're not concerned about SPFs. They are very safe ingredients and absorption is not really the concern with them. But actually, encapsulated SPFs have an additional benefit in that they are not absorbed any deeper. They just sit very neatly on the surface of the skin. So they're being increasingly employed into SPF products because of all of these reasons. They sit a bit nicer in the skin. You're not getting that white cast. They're not stinging the eyes. They're not inducing kind of inflammation. And the filters themselves tend to last longer.
I guess the question is, why doesn't everyone just encapsulate their SPF?
Because it's really expensive.
It is really expensive. And so I guess it's not cost effective for some brands to do that with their SPF.
And actually, for making the claim that you want your product to be SPF 50 and the PA rating, which is the UVA rating, or the PPD rating, which is the UVA rating, that is tested immediately after application of the product. So you apply the product, the skin then has the UV shone onto it, and then, it's worked out exactly what the rating it gets given. And so, it's an immediate test. Some companies, it doesn't really matter for kind of quite a lot of them how good those filters are, how broad those filters are, how much coverage they're actually giving. To really think hard about ensuring that you're covering all the UVA and the UVB. How effective are those filters actually working? Do they just give up the ghost super quickly? That is the hard part of making a really good SPF, is thinking about all of that. And actually, you can make an SPF much more cheaply if you're not factoring in all of those elements, and encapsulation is expensive.
For me, it's the not having to reapply every couple of hours. That's just, I put makeup on pretty much every day. And so there's no chance that I'll be doing it. And even like people say, top up with one of those sprays. But those sprays leave a weird sort of shine, and I think it ruins my makeup. So
for me, it's the yellowness. Because I wear a lot of white, and I like to take my SPF right down onto my neck, and I absolutely hate the yellowing that goes on all of the white tops from wearing many of the SPFs. I hate that. I also don't like the smell of some SPFs, and then I don't like the smell of the fragrances that some people use to cover the SPFs. And I do think with encapsulation, it smells much nicer as well.
And if you get pilling, it's an absolute nightmare. You have to start from scratch if you get pilling. Encapsulation reduces the chance of pilling because the way it just absorbs into the skin.
Yeah, that's exactly right. It creates this. I really don't like to use the word film, because film suggests that it's something that's really tacky and horrible. And that's why I sometimes don't like using that word. But actually, that is what's being created on the surface of the skin. And if that film is just blending in with your skin that you don't even notice it, it's so lightweight, but yet it's incredibly effective then at still defending against ultraviolet radiation. Like, that's what you want. You want to have this invisible protection on that you can't even feel, and it doesn't sting your eyes. And what do you think about the feel of it then? I know all formulations are slightly different, but I think the way that the encapsulated SPF, because it's surrounded in these kind of like little silica polymers or whatever the other polymers can be made of, it seems to make a really nice kind of smooth layer on the surface of the skin.
Yeah, so I can't bear it if it doesn't absorb, if my sunscreen doesn't absorb well into my skin, because I put makeup on straight after and I just need to have this lovely base for my makeup. I don't want any particular colour from my sunscreen. I just want it to absorb well and almost be like this invisible shield that just means my makeup will sit really nicely.
I think it's really exciting that now so many other companies are investing in to try and work out how to make filters last longer and be better and be more comfortable on our skin. You know, there's no real excuse now for not applying your SPF. There kind of is one for everyone. And I think with the encapsulated forms of these SPFs, this idea of it being stingy or irritating or not lasting long enough, you know, you can't really keep using those excuses any longer. But I do also think that, you know, this is getting really quite nuanced. And in fact, not everybody needs to go down that route of trying to find all of the best filters covering all of the kind of wavelengths of light, all encapsulated. And actually, most of the SPFs that are on the market that are from the bigger companies actually do a really good job. And, you know, that's often enough for many people. But if you want to go the extra little mile, then this idea of encapsulated SPF, where you have all of these additional other ingredients, for example, in our Dayscript one with all of the antioxidants and peptides and microbiome support, then that's a kind of more comprehensive overview, isn't it?
I've got a really good example of how sunscreen is great and everyone should be using it. But there are a group of patients that have certain skin conditions. Like I had a patient today with discoid lupus. So this is a sun-sensitive skin condition. And she would develop these plaques of discoid lupus on sun-exposed sites, usually in response to sun exposure. And her biggest thing was just the reapplication of sunscreen every couple of hours to try and protect her skin as much as possible. Her other thing was just having to constantly think about it and getting caught out and then feeling really guilty if she didn't have a sunscreen with her and that she was somehow sort of responsible if her symptoms were getting worse or if she was getting a flare. And so I think for someone like that, it can be a really clever way to just take that constant thought out of it. You can just apply your SPF in the morning, know that it's going to last the length of the entire day, and you don't really need to think so much about the reapplication constantly.
Which other brands do you know use encapsulated SPF as part of their?
So Colorescience do an encapsulated SPF and Ellie do an encapsulated SPF. So I think if you want to sort of take your SPF a step further, then that's a really good option. And if you want to take your day cream a step even further, then to have encapsulated SPF plus all the antioxidants is probably the best thing that you can do for your skin.
I think for me, the important things to look out for whenever you're thinking about an SPF is obviously it has to be comfortable on and you have to like and be excited about wearing it. And I mean excited. Like I am excited when I put my SPF on. I feel bereft if I've left the house and I haven't put it on.
Oh, I couldn't. I just feel like I'd lost something.
Yeah, because I don't really wear any makeup, but I know that my skin looks better whenever I put my SPF on. So I kind of think of that as my foundation. So you have to be excited about it. You have to use one that is an SPF 50 plus, because nobody ever really puts it on in the kind of thick quantities that we're expected to. So the higher that is, the better. And you do want to have one that's got very good UVA coverage. And you can see this by what the PA number is. So it'll be 4 pluses. Sometimes they say what a PPD is, and that should be above 16. And so they're the kind of benchmarks of things to look out for, because there's been that recent SPF scandal in Australia and that's all really based on the product that's inside the bottle not living up to the claims that are made on the outside of it. And what this choice test company did is they tested 20 popular SPF 50s, and they found that 16 out of them didn't actually meet that labelled SPF protection levels. Do you know what the worst offender was? It's one that I actually feels quite nice when you put it on your skin.
And smells divine.
But it was the worst. It came out as an SPF of just 4 compared to
being
an SPF
name and
50.
shame.
No, we're not going to name and shame. But there was quite a few other underperformers. And as a consequence, I think some of these have then been recalled. But it does, go to show that these are healthcare products, and it is the responsibility, yes, of those testing facilities to make sure that the product that's going out has passed those tests, but also of the companies making them to ensure that they are continuing to meet those standards. Do you know what the best one was that came out?
La Roche-Posay.
Yeah, the invisible fluid.
Oh, it's almost like we must have known that because we're forever recommending La Roche-Posay and Thelios.
Absolutely love it.
Apart from the yellowing.
Other than the yellowing. I mean, come on, it's the yellowing.
So just to summarise, the most important thing to do is to put your sunscreen on. And if you want to take it a step further, you can encapsulate your SPF, and then it just means that you don't have to reapply and it will last better. It'll probably sit better on your skin. And if you want to take it a step even further, then you'd get an encapsulated SPF with antioxidants within the formulation. And if we encapsulate SPF, it doesn't break down in the skin so quickly. So it remains stable for longer, which is why you don't have to keep reapplying it every couple of hours.
Which is why you like it.
Which is why I love it.
And that's a wrap in this episode. Thank you, lovely listener, for joining us. And now I think you know everything there is to know about encapsulated SPF.
And if you've enjoyed this episode, do give us a follow or subscribe wherever you get your podcasts. It really does help us keep going, and it means we can reach even more skin enthusiasts like you.
And also, we really love hearing from you. Many of these episodes are because listeners have asked us questions, so do reach out on Instagram or by email, and you'll find all of those details in the show notes.
Okay, so that's bye for now. Take care of yourself and your skin, and wear your encapsulated SPF.
Catch you next time at the After Hours Skin Clinic. As always, this podcast is for informational purposes only and is not a substitute for medical advice. Please consult your healthcare professional before making a change to your treatment.